Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to learn the options pattern with .NET 9. This is a powerful way to manage configuration in your .NET applications, and we'll explore how to use it effectively. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any of our future content. Let's get started. First, what is the options pattern? In simple terms, it's a design pattern provided by .NET to access configuration settings in a strongly typed way. Instead of using magic strings or hard coding settings, the options pattern makes our code cleaner, safer, and more testable. One of the key benefits of the options pattern is that it promotes separation of concerns and encapsulation. Each part of your application only depends on the settings it needs, making your code more modular and easier to maintain. Alright, let's jump into the code. First, let's add a new section to the appSettings.json file. And I am going to call this section as Email Settings. This section will have two properties, SMTP server and port. SMTP server set to smtp.example.com and port set to 587. Next, I'll create an option class to match the section we added in the appSettings.json file. I'll call this option class as Email Settings. This class must be non-abstract, with a public parameter-less constructor, and contain public read-write properties to bind. Email Settings class will have properties for SMTP server and port, just like we defined in the configuration file. Next, I'm going to add a constant field called name. This is useful because it prevents us from having to hardcode the string email settings in the application when binding the class to the configuration. I'll set the name field to email settings, which is the name of the section in the appSettings.json file. Now we need to register these settings in our application. We'll do this in the program.cs file. Here, we're telling the DI container to bind the email settings section of appSettings file to the option class. Now let's define a simple get method to access the email settings values from appSettings file. I am going to name route as email settings. Let's inject the IOptions interface and specify email settings as a generic argument into our endpoint. This way, we can access the configuration values through the value property. I'm going to create an anonymous object to represent the response. This object will have two properties, SMTP server and port. Assign value to SMTP server property from options.value.smtp server. And assign value to port property from options.valuePort. Let's send the response back from our API by using results.ok and passing in the response object. Let's run the application. I open .http file. Change endpoint URL to email settings and send the request. You can see that we get back a JSON response containing our email settings configuration values. Here the SMTP server is smtp.example.com and the port is 587. Let's change port to 483 and SMTP server to smpt1.example.com and save it. Send request again. Still SMTP server is smtp.example.com and port is 587. This happens because the IOptions interface is registered as a singleton service. By reading the email settings configuration after the app starts, these values are available and consistent throughout the entire application's lifetime. To read the updated email settings values, we need to restart the application. There are also two other interfaces that allow us to get updated values in real time. One option is the IOptionsSnapshot interface. Here, we can change to OptionsSnapshot.value.smtp server. and IOptionsSnapshot.value port. Let's run the application again. Send request again. Here, you can see SMTP server is smtp1.example.com and port is 483. Let's change to SMTP server to smtp.example.com and port to 587 and save it. Send request again. You can see this time we get response with updated values. Let's change again and see. You can see again we get response with updated values. This is because the IOptionsSnapshot interface is registered as a scoped service. Let's try IOptionsMonitor interface. Change OptionsSnapshot to OptionsMonitor and currentValue.smtp server and currentValue.port. Let's run the application again. And send request again. Let's change the email settings values again. And run send request again. We can see the response with the updated email settings values. This is because the IOptionsMonitor interface is registered as a singleton, and its current value property reads the latest values at any time, which is especially useful in singleton dependencies. That's it for today's video. If you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon to get notified about future videos. Let me know in the comments what other .NET topics you'd like me to cover. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy coding!